everyone. Welcome to the Backstage Classical Career Conversations podcast. I'm your host, Katrina Stroud, and I'm a classical violinist who started playing at the age of 3. I graduated from the Robert McDuffie Center for Strings at Mercer University with my bachelor's in violin performance, and I'm pursuing my master's in music at the University of Michigan. In this series, I invite esteemed classical musicians onto the show and interview them to tell their stories and give advice to share with others and preserve their legacies. Welcome back to part 2 of violinist and pedagogue Danielle Belen's interview. For a more extensive biography and to learn about her early career as a performer and young teacher, go listen to part 1 if you haven't already. Now to pick up where we left off in our interview from last week. Is there something in particular you look for in auditions and trial lessons for students?
So I listen to about 400 violinists every year in some capacity, whether it's through U of M auditions, whether it's through center stage strings applications, and then just a host of sometimes, I don't want to say random, but just emails that come across my inbox of here, listen to this person, listen to this person, listen to this person. And then, of course, hours and hours of listening to my own students, whether I'm curating a little reel for an Instagram video or helping them pick which take they're going to use for a competition or an audition. I do a lot of listening and I do a lot of observation. I love to watch violinists in videos, and I love to try to watch with the sound off and make a prediction of what this person sounds like. So a lot of times I'll have the volume down first, watch, and then turn the volume up. And usually I'm like, yep, that matches.
Yeah.
Both sides, right? It's really great, or that's not surprising that is out of tune because of how your bow is moving or because of where your thumb is.
Yeah.
So I do a lot of observation. And each year, I think I get a little stronger at that. I think the art of becoming a great teacher takes many, many decades of observation, of seeing patterns. And so to get to your question, what do I look for in a student? If it's just in terms of their playing and what their playing represents to me on first listening or looking, I'm looking for someone with a great ear, with a flexible ear. I love to hear how someone handles a mistake. I think my ears have become very attuned to, by a mistake, I mean anything from maybe speaking to just an intonation, a slight miss. How does their touch handle that? Some people have the amazing gift of playing something out of tune, but with such a soft finger that it just so quickly. It's like even the listeners like, did I hear it wrong? Oh, must be my mistake,
Yeah.
No, they meant to do that, Or do you hear squeezing in the hand that is affecting the pitch, So kind of trying to hear how that student is hearing and choosing someone whose ear is as far developed as it can be. That skips over a lot of problems that, you have to work on with them. So it's nice to work with someone that has a great ear.
Yeah.
Because their career can go much further.
Yeah.
Much more quickly. And then I try to get to know a student also. I speak with them. Something I've done in the last 4 or 5 years is when I have trial lessons with people, even if it's just 10, 15 minutes or something like that, I want to see how not only quick at making changes they are, but how receptive they are. If it's something they're used to. Like my students are used to every single lesson I'm changing a fingering or bowing. We're trying things, sometimes depending on the student, right up until a concert. I mean, some students who've worked with me a very long time, I know that they can handle a fingering change the morning of a concert.
Right.
Others, no, that's going to take a week, right? But if I get the sense in this lesson with someone that, I'm asking them to change something, and this is a very unusual thing for them to have to change a fingering. Like, when's the last time you changed a fingering or a bowing? Never. I've never changed it since the first day I played this starting 2 years ago. That gives me a little pause, depending on their age, of course.
Yeah.
If they're 18, maybe that's something we look past and we develop, right? If they're 22 and they're not thinking about all the different ways that this passage could lay out, that's going to be tough. That's going to be tough for me to, because that's almost like a, I don't want to say personality change, but kind of, right? It's like what does this person's practice room look like?
Right. Yeah.
You know, if they're not even trying different things.
Yeah.
Right. So where am I going to insert myself into this development of this person who's already 22 and is not flexible in that kind of way? But I have also contradicted myself on everything I'm saying right now. You know, I have absolutely been mesmerized by somebody's physical talent with the instrument, and I could ask them to change a fingering all day long for a year and they can't do it. But their physical talent with the violin and the beauty of their sound is so extraordinary that I will look past this inflexibility.
Yeah,
you know,
I see.
I've been guilty of that, but it usually bites me in the end if the person is not flexible. It usually ends up, and it usually is a sign that the career is ultimately going to be limited if they can't show that kind of flexibility. So yeah, I look for a great ear. I look for flexibility in their mind and in their hands. I think a violinist with career longevity has to have a certain speed of getting around the violin by a certain age. Otherwise, there are going to be, more obstacles in the way than are maybe possible to confront in a reasonable amount of time.
Yeah. How do you prepare your own students for audition season, both physically and mentally?
Well, I think studio class plays an incredibly important role, and the planning of studio classes, planning is such an important part. And I know that you're really good at that, time management and planning. I think it is part of my job description to help a student learn how to set goals well in advance and then be realistic about what it's going to take to get there.
Right.
I don't believe preparation for an audition is just a completely linear, like you start a piece and you just rev up, and then studio class, audition.
Yeah.
No, that is not a successful, that is not successful for under stress. It's not successful for making recordings. The road is much more like, let's get here. Okay, we're here. All right, let's put it away. Now let's work on something. Let's work on a short, really challenging Wieniawski etude or Paganini Caprice or something like this that's going to address some of those passages in your Sibelius that didn't quite go the first time. Let's work on this, but not in the context of Sibelius. Let's just work on your spiccato and your string crossing coordination. Okay, so we'll do this Paganini Caprice for a little while. All right, here we are. We're returning to Sibelius now, as an example, round 2. Yeah, this time we're going to do a recording session also, This is still, of course, months in advance of the thing that we're aiming for.
Yeah.
So that by the time you get to that thing you're aiming for, it's just another thing.
Right. Yeah.
It's just another thing instead of like, right, all the way. And then like, this has to go well or else. No, you want to get to the point where it's just another thing. And being able to have my students understand the term like front burner, side burner, back burner, right? And you have to be kind of masterful, I think, at multitasking and prioritizing, but always have something cooking on the side burner for the future. And maybe the thing on the back burner, maybe it's like, you're not going to play this piece for a while, but there were these few passages that really were problematic. Those need to be almost like etudes for you that you're doing every day on the back burner.
Yeah.
Right? Even though you're on to completely different repertoire now, like what is going on in the background that's going to help you become the best violinist you can be? What are you doing to develop your violin playing every day? It is not just about the repertoire. That's so critical. And technique class. I know we're talking about audition preparation, but like one of the huge mistakes I think that people make going into auditioning, whether it's for undergrad, master's, DMA, orchestra auditions especially, right? or even competition, like specific competition, like if you're doing a Bach competition, do not practice only Bach for 6 months, right? Practice arpeggios and Sibelius and Mozart and this and in the same way, I would say, if you're preparing for your college auditions and you've got your repertoire, you're playing Dvorak Concerto, Bach G minor, Paganini 7, then if you focus only on that repertoire, you will be making that repertoire better up to a certain degree. But you and your teacher need to have a very specific recipe of what's going on with your technique, something that is your science lab where you're addressing things at all times, right? A lot of times people come to me, they're playing their audition repertoire, and I ask them to play some thirds. And they're a little bit thrown off at first, unless they know something about me. Then they play their thirds. And instead of me having to tell them about all the problems that are happening in their Sibelius concerto with their double stops, perhaps, instead, or even just the way they move around with their arpeggios. Instead of that, I get to just work on it in the context, in the sort of non-icky, non-judgmental space of thirds, right? And here's what's not going well in your thirds. You're not keeping your one down. Your thumb is too tight, and we need to strengthen your fourth finger. Like let's do these thirds, right? And not only are they thirds, but of course there's fourths and sixths hidden in there too, and octaves. And how does all of that work together? Let's work on that separate from talking about your concerto. Let's work on this, improve this, and let's just see what happens for your audition. Let's see what happens in 3 months if you do your thirds every single day and your arpeggios every single day with a few different bowings. Let's see what happens, and I'll tell you, it never hurts. It usually helps a lot. And then if you're doing that over a long, long period of time. So those are some of the maybe less obvious ways of improving your audition is focus on something else on the side burner.
No, I love that. That's such an amazing idea. You have a very supportive and strong studio environment here. What are some steps you've taken to cultivate this culture?
I have so many interesting students with so many interests outside of violin playing. Right now, I have someone who is a rock climber and who also makes beautiful pottery, including this. Beautiful. Her name's Joanne. You probably know her. And everyone in the studio knows that she does that. And, I hope, actually, I've been asking her, I was like, can we have a studio class at the pottery place, or better yet, the rock climbing place? And the reason for that is because a couple of years ago, my student Josh, who's really into Muay Thai, Thai boxing, we actually took a studio trip there and we're boxing, each is on my Instagram, boxing each other with gloves and learning how to kick. And it was kind of an amazing bonding experience. Anyway, I try to tap into the things that my students are interested in outside of music as a sort of, I don't know, it's so critical, I think, that everybody feels like they're seen as a person with their own set of passions and their own, tapping on this idea of like something I think you're starting to do, which is developing your own brand.
Right.
What does that mean? Like, I feel pretty confident in my own brand. I worked very hard towards this identity I have as a teacher, first and foremost. And so anyway, I try to get to know my students in their lessons. And at studio class, I think they all feel like I do my best to try to care for each and every person. And that's a very difficult thing to do when you run a studio because, of course, you have students who are a little busier than others, right? You have students who are at the point where they are doing competitions. And you have some students who are not quite there. And so to really give an equal amount of attention around that, that's a challenging thing for any teacher, I think, to do. Like, I genuinely feel just as invested in the person that is here, not yet doing competition. They might not ever do a competition, but what they're doing sometimes is even more extraordinary, right? Like changing their vibrato or learning how to interact with the bow completely. I mean, that is an extraordinary feat on the violin. It is extraordinary to learn how to interact with this wooden box. And so that journey for that person is just as valid and as valuable as the person who is already maybe, stepping their toes into the professional world. And, then I have some students preparing for auditions and they need that extra care. How do we do that? I think something that's been important to me in my studio is, I know we use this term community. It's such a maybe overused word, building community, right? But it's really true. And it's really, I think, part of students being able to begin to explore what their own brand is, what their own future is, what their own unique spin on where they fit into the music world is. I mentioned excerpts, orchestral excerpts. Of course, I hear those in lessons. I work with students on them. But last year, I tried something a little bit new, which was I'm really proud of my younger class of freshmen and sophomores. They're a really strong level of players, and they have very little experience with orchestra excerpts, of course. And I thought, but there's no reason they shouldn't be practicing them, right? But maybe I don't need to hear them at our lessons. Maybe I don't need to hear the freshman's Don Juan yet, right? What a great opportunity for my grad students who are preparing excerpts. What a great opportunity for them to mentor and teach, right? So this past year, there's been a lot of that going on. And, I don't have to beg them to do it. They see the value, the grad students, they see the value in the mentorship of the younger ones. They learn equally from it. Right. And sort of bridging that gap of the freshmen, the grad students, connecting people together in that way, and without me being involved. I think that's one of the really hard things. I'm a very hands-on teacher. I'm very much into everybody's business. But it's also really important, and I remind myself to pull back and empower certain connections to happen completely without me. Yeah. So grad students are giving master classes. Grad students are teaching technique classes. And on occasion, if I'm out of town, I will ask someone to lead a technique class. I think that if you were to come into our studio class on any given day, you might have a lot of fun, actually. And I really enjoy it. I enjoy it because I get to, nothing brings me more pleasure than hearing my students play in a hall. Right. However well it goes, it still brings me joy. And one of my favorite things is when I like to watch my students in the audience when one of their colleagues is on stage. And especially when there's like a journey that's been happening, right? Like this person played their Brahms concerto at the beginning of the year. Everybody heard it. It was good. And then here it is again. Here it is a year later, and something tangible is happening different in their sound. And then to look out at my students out there and to see that twinkle, that acknowledgement, like they hear it, and they're so proud of themselves that they can tell. Yeah. And so it's like everything is happening. I'm so thrilled for what's happening with my student on stage, and I'm equally thrilled that this person out here notices. Yeah. And then when it's a whole group all at once, you see somebody on stage just did something extraordinary that maybe didn't go so well the week before, but oh my gosh, the way they flew up to that top fourth finger. And then you look at, and like all 17 of the kids are all just like grinning ear to ear. There's no better feeling than that as a teacher. And maybe that's the best answer to your question about community. I mean, it has to be organic. It has to feel organic. We can't just sit around and sing Kumbaya. Right. It has to be real. They have to feel that something special is happening and that they're part of it. Yeah. And that if they haven't experienced it yet, they just saw one of their peers experience it, they can do it too. They're going to have their moment in studio class where and then you hear it in the applause, right? You hear it in the way that they are cheering on their colleague. And there's nothing better than that. in my opinion.
Yeah, I love it. I love that too. Yeah. And you were talking about a musician's brand a little bit,
Yeah.
and you yourself have a lot of entrepreneurial endeavors. You have Center Stage Strings, and you have your YouTube channel and Instagram account, and I hear you have a product coming out soon. So, in your opinion,
You're very good. You're very good.
Thank you. In your opinion, how important are entrepreneurial skills for musicians, and how would you advise them to start cultivating them?
So I've spoken in this interview a little bit about these moments where I'm like, why on earth did people trust a 25-year-old with this summer festival, right? Why didn't Mr. Lipsit trust me to work with this? Like, why on earth are these people trusting me to do stuff? And I guess now that I'm beginning to be, more of like a senior person in a way, a faculty member, and I'm kind of looking back, I'm like, well, who were the people that I trusted, right? Why did I promote Chrissy Zlatareva to be my managing director of CSS? Why did I trust her? Well, because she gave me every reason to. Because she was qualified, awesome, passionate, responsive, and she was present, and she was there when she didn't have to be. So I guess I've also done those things in my life, I guess, now that I'm looking at it from this perspective. So when I, took the leap to like start putting more stuff out there on social media, which by the way is a very hard thing to do, to press that publish button and to put it out to the world. It's a hard thing. It's a hard thing to do. And you really have to kind of trust yourself, and you have to have people, I think, that in the early stages of my Instagram account, for example, I would send all my videos to one of my most trusted friends, Albert Tsai, who is a violin teacher in San Francisco and also has been at Center Stage as a faculty member for a long time. And he's like honest with me. He'd be like, it's like, you could do better. or like, yeah, no, this is awesome.
Yeah.
Post this, And then little by little, I gained more confidence. And now I think I have a really good feeling for what I want to put out there. Again, my brand is at this point, it's exactly what I want it to be. It is not about me, the performer. I am a performer. I am an artist. I love to perform. But like that, for me, that's a vehicle for the more important thing in my life, which is teaching and which is championing my students. And so this little video series that I do that's called What Went Right, it says what went wrong, but wrong is crossed out, and then it says right.
Yeah.
What went right. I really like this series because, I listen to many hours of my students' videos and in sort of choosing these moments to highlight out there for the public eye. And I really do feel that when I would love to have enough time to make videos for every single one of my students. They're also deserving to have their best moments put out there for the world and for them to be proud of. And for the students that I have had the time to make these videos for, these reels, and for them to see themselves there. Of course, I get all their permission and everything before posting. Absolutely. But when they see themselves and they see that like best moment, that very professional moment where they sound like a great soloist, and it might be for a minute, it might be for 30 seconds, it might be for 2 minutes, might be for 5 seconds. Whatever it is, it doesn't matter. That's the seed of a new level of confidence. And so I really kind of take this social media stuff very seriously as like, not only like, oh, wow, look at how fabulous my students are, right? And look what I know about the violin. Of course, it's a little bit of that too.
Yeah.
But it's also very much kind of part of a curriculum of like, what are all the resources that we can use to grow? And I believe that video and the art of listening to video and selecting what is great and special. And it's not what's the most perfect. It's what was the most special.
Right.
And where did this person really go for something with bravery? And lo and behold, we always know when you go for something with bravery, you usually nail it, right? You usually nail it. As opposed to when you're trying not to miss,
Right.
you usually don't nail it. You miss it.
Yeah.
And so, anyway, yes, social media has so many problems, and I really hope there are no 13-year-olds combing around and looking at my channel. They don't need to be on social media. I have a 6-year-old daughter. I want to keep her away from stuff as long as possible. But for those 16, 17 plus 18-year-old kids who are interested in looking at violin videos online, I think I want to be part of that, and then to see like, oh, maybe this is a place I want to audition, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you asked me about that, and you asked me about my product.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So I have not launched the
Mhm.
product yet,
Yes.
but it is called Surfbow, and it is a teaching tool that's really fun, I think. And I think how many times teachers have told their students, I mean, I'm talking about from 6-year-old students to 26-year-old students,
Mhm.
to pay more attention to their bow,
Mm.
to look at their bow, right? It's right between you and your left hand, and yet we look past the bow all the time at the left hand.
Mm.
Everybody's worried about the left hand. Everybody thinks intonation is only in the left hand. They're going to play more accurately, clean, left hand. No, right? We know that the bow is the thing.
Right.
And so my little product, which I'll give a tiny little, here it is. It's a surf bow, and it comes in different colors. But more on that. You'll see it. There's a website. I'm waiting for when the time is right because, again, yeah, there's only so many hours in the day, and I want to spend most of my hours with my students teaching. If I can pull off this little product launch, and I do have a manufacturer who makes them, if it turns out that these little surf bows are popular and that they sell, it's great. But I think I'm gonna have a problem on my hands. I'll need to hire some people to really help. Okay.
Yeah.
So that's very much a side project that I'm passionate about it, but I'm gonna keep it on the side burner.
Yes.
It's a side burner project.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
And I will say I have tried one of my friends, one of your students, surf bow, and it really does work. So
It does. Yeah. I mean, it clips on the bow, and you can't miss it. I mean, it's right there in front of your face.
Something that people can look out for. So this has been such a great interview, and I'm so grateful to have you here. And I always like to end with this one question. What is one piece of advice you'd like to give aspiring professional musicians?
I can do that because I think about this a lot, actually. When you are a student, you think of yourself as a student, but your teachers do not think of you as students. They think of you as future colleagues, or at least that's the whole point of what we're doing here, right? For those who are aiming for careers in music as violinists or anything. So the sooner that you are behaving, and by behaving, I use that maybe a little differently than we normally do, like, oh, don't misbehave. No, I mean, behave like you are a leader. Behave like you are a teacher. Now, do I want somebody to pretend like they're my colleague and start just calling me Danielle? Hey, Danielle, how's your weekend? No, not that. Okay. Like a junior colleague. All right. But nevertheless, I think something really important to know is that your teacher thinks probably more highly of you than you give yourself credit for. And we want to be given every reason to give you every opportunity that we can. So if you show up for us, if you bring that extra level of preparation into your lessons, if you respond to that email where we're asking something of you, of the whole studio, and right, nobody responds except you responded, we remember that. And that's really the basis of a career. It's not just how well you play. We all know that. It's about who you are as a person and how confident you are, right? Confidence speaks volumes. So treat yourself kindly, position yourself with, straighten your spine a little bit, like figuratively, literally, figuratively, and in your interaction with not only your teacher, but with the world. And act like a future colleague, and we'll see you like that also. That's my advice.
Yeah, that's great advice. And thank you so much for this interview and for sharing your story and passion for teaching with all of us.
Thank you, Katrina.
A final thank you to the incredible Danielle Belen for sharing her wisdom and her insights into her impressive career as a violinist and pedagogue. To learn more about Miss Belen and watch her videos and performances, visit belenviolin.com. Thank you so much for joining me on Backstage Classical Career Conversations. If you liked this interview, please rate, review, and subscribe to this podcast on the platform you're using. You can follow us at Backstage Classical Podcast on Instagram or visit the website at backstageclassicalpodcast.com for more episodes and information. I'm Katrina Stroud, and it was great to see you here. Until next time, stay inspired and listen to the stories of others.